One thing I've learned after 20 years in ministry is that coordinating volunteers can be a real challenge. And in this conversation, we're going to unpack some of the best tips and tricks that we've learned on how to better manage and coordinate your church's volunteers. Let's do this. Well, hey guys, I'm Thomas.
And I'm Ian.
And today we are talking about church volunteer coordination and want to share with you guys some of the tips that we've picked up over the years on how to better coordinate your volunteers. There's no bigger headache, at least in my experience in my time in ministry, than the challenges that come along with the recruiting, equipping, and coordinating of volunteers within our churches. So I think it'd be we thought it'd be a good conversation for us to dive into and see if we can give you a few of the ideas we've come up with on things we've picked up along the way and gleaned on how to get better at this.
Yeah, should be a good conversation and helpful to hopefully many ministry leaders and pastors because, volunteers are the backbone of the church, right? And often challenging to get volunteers. That's another conversation altogether. But once we have them, we want to make sure to coordinate them well, right? Yeah. So, it should be good. So
this isn't one of the tips, but one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is that we have this idea that volunteers, because they're giving their time for free, which is amazing, that's what volunteer is by definition, that somehow they are okay with us just kind of having loose expectations or those kinds of things on them. And I think sometimes as pastors and church leaders, we're afraid to have high standards for our volunteers because
don't want to
we
push them
think,
away
they're volunteering
and so on.
Anyway. So it'd be, how can I look at someone that's giving their time like this and then, ask them to maintain such a high standard when in reality, that's what people are desperate for. And high capacity volunteers, in my experience, are looking for just better coordination, better leadership in a lot of ways. And I think people will appreciate it, even though we might be afraid and think it might push people away. They're actually looking for those kinds of things. So that's kind of a free tip that I've been thinking about, something I've been processing there. But Ian, why don't you kick us off with the first one? What is the first tip we came up with for better volunteer management?
Well, first it's to create clear roles for your volunteers. So, and I think like you just said it, Thomas, it wasn't a point or a recommendation, but I think, once we get them, it's like, okay, we got them and we better just, let it be loose. But no, certain volunteers, everyone has their own unique gifts, right? And certain volunteers are better suited for something. And obviously volunteers who step up, they may have an interest in something they already know that they want to do, of course. Yeah. But that role, whatever it is, should be clearly defined. I know for a season, I actually was, my wife and I volunteered for children's church, but we were the check-in. My wife helped with check-in process and our check-in system, and I helped with security. So I helped with I've pastored before, but I've had seasons where I volunteered too. When I pastored with you, Thomas, I used to hang our sign up at the community center that we met at, and did a lot of other things. But this
it was a church plant, Ian, so it was a lot of volunteering going on. I don't think.
Oh, you're right.
So it was mostly everybody was volunteering still, but we were pastoral volunteers, I think, at that time. But
because you do everything, we get that total. Different transition to a larger church. My family and I are a part of now. However, very important. My role was clearly identified as what I was getting at to make sure.
Oh, a children's ministry.
My wife signed in, but I was the guy at the door. We had one way in, one way out. I had to make sure that these parents had their ticket to make sure that they were going in there to actually get their own child. So it is important, very important. And one of the clearly defined roles was that I, under no circumstance, let someone in without that ticket. Yeah. And did I have so many trying to go underneath the radar and get mad at me? And they lost their salvation after the service, getting upset with me when they're trying to get their kids. But all of that was clearly defined, and it made for a very smooth process. And it just also helped me understand, hey, here's the only things I got to focus on, right? I wasn't worried about all these other things. Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, I think having really clear roles, again, that's a perfect example of just, if people are giving their time, we should at least, as a courtesy, define what they're going to be giving their time towards and what their job is going to be. So good stuff. Next one is using a church volunteer management system. or most of us are going to use a church management software of some kind that includes a volunteer management system within it. I would say, in my experience, probably most of our audience is using Planning Center for this, but you could be using something like Church Community Builder or Rock RMS, or there's lots of other ways to do this. But I've found that over the course of the last few years that really Planning Center or Church Center, as it's called, they probably are, a lot of us use it. So especially small to medium-sized churches, I would say it's very commonplace. But just having a software to help you manage this on, who's off, and really kind of coordinating schedules with these kinds of things is great. And it works for just about any area of volunteering within your church. So our church uses our system for our children's ministry, our youth ministry, worship teams, tech teams, ushers, greeters, hospitality, everybody that serves every single weekend and during the week. We have it on one of these rotations. And even our pastoral staff, I got pinged that I'm preaching next week. And do I accept that role? I wonder what would happen if I said no to that. No. Someone else do it. No, but it does let people coordinate that. And if they can't be there, they're out of town or something, they can hit that reply, maybe help to find someone to replace them. So having this kind of software is super important. Something you definitely want to do.
Good transition to the next one is to send weekly updates to your volunteers throughout the week. Now, does your software system, do you guys do that? And does Planning Center also do that? Is it able to send updates or notifications, those types of things?
Yeah, we do use Planning Center. That is our system. So we that's what we use. And yes, it does. Okay. And it's like, so there's really two ways. I mean, so I think over and above that, most of our systems will automatically email and say, hey, you're on kids ministry this week. So I think over and above that, like managing your volunteers, you probably want to have your children's ministry leader maybe sending a weekly email that has, hey, here's what we're praying for our kids this week. Here's what the lesson plan is. Here's the Bible verse they'll be memorizing. Let's be praying for our kids that they'd really grasp this theme that we're going after. So that's what I think of when I think of those weekly updates.
No, that's good. Yeah, like you said, in email form. I know there's other messaging apps that can be used as well, but reminders of certain shifts, if someone stepped out or got sick, or just like you said, the theme, maybe it's a reminder of a big event that's happening, so be aware of these things. So yeah, that's good. Yeah,
good stuff. All right, next one is developing a volunteer handbook. This one is super important, and I would really encourage, this is probably the one that I think resonates the most with me as I was thinking about this list. We are doing this at our church. So just yesterday, I was meeting with our small groups pastor at our church, and we were going over a little bit out of date small group leader handbook, basically. We hadn't revisited it in probably 6 or 7 years, and it was pre-COVID, and there's just, the world's changed, as we know, since then, from just kind of defining what a group is, what an expectation of a leader is. But I'd say that this is something that is so important for especially your larger ministries where people volunteer. So I'm talking about kids, youth, life groups or small groups if you have those, worship teams, serving teams on Sunday. Just things that clearly define, hey, here's what a volunteer does. Here's the life expectations of how you should live. Like if you're on a worship team, like there are certain character requirements that you need to have. Like you can't be out partying all the time and getting drunk everywhere you go. Like those kinds of standards. It's important you probably write, it's as obvious as it seems, like having these things written down, like having these things like actually in a handbook that says this is the expectation for your character if you're going to be on this kind of a team here. Same thing goes for youth leaders and for children's ministry workers. And so there's that part. Then there's the real practical part of like, hey, here's how we do it. Here's the way we teach. Here's the language we use. Here's the expectations. Here's when you show up. Here's when you're done. Here's how we close down. All of those things just written out, it's so important. And I know so many churches, especially small to medium-sized ones, ones. We just rely on word of mouth and being taught what someone else did before me. But if you actually write it down and turn it into something that's like a system, it really makes you much more effective. And your volunteers are going to love that. I promise you.
Yeah, it makes it easier for their job, and to not wonder about certain things. Keeps them in line in a good way. And I was smiling. You made me think of several funny. I just started having funny thoughts of like a first-time visitor who maybe just desperately needs Jesus, and he was downtown near the bars, and if he saw your volunteer, your greeter, someone drunk stumbling out of a bar, and he's coming in for the first time, I just started picturing some funny stuff. So we don't want that, right? So, but good.
Over and above that, there's more reasons why character is important than that. Just it's
of course.
I don't know, but it's just in addition, like that's obvious. Anybody that is making first impressions, or if you see someone that you see their life is incongruent with what they're preaching on Sunday, it's a red flag for people. So it's
or what I
that's
mentioned,
the kind of stuff you put in the handbook.
I did a video post, one of our posts that our followers can check on YouTube about things you don't want your greeters doing. You don't want them rebuking first-time visitors, all sorts of funny stuff. But
and drinking, getting drunk as well. We should have added that to the list.
That's both good. Yeah, so here's the next good one, totally different, rotating volunteer roles. So volunteers can get burnt out from one task, and I mean, it might be easy if someone's always greeting, for example, that we were just joking about, if you have a greeter, and maybe they're a good greeter, very friendly, warm and engaging, person at the door to help someone transition to the next step. They may prefer that, but they also might be getting burned out, and they might be want to change it up a little bit. And rotating people will keep them from burnout. We know that volunteers, that's a real factor, right? I mean, they're volunteers again are volunteering their time, going above and beyond, and so keeping it fresh for them, rotating roles is a good thing. Can be.
Yeah, I think that's really good. It's something I don't think about a lot, but just not just staying in the same area. And I think if we're growing in our faith and in our walk with the Lord, we will be rotating and moving on to other areas as well too, and maybe growing in our. If someone starts out, maybe leading on lead guitar in a worship team, and maybe God has a heart. That person has a heart to step up and worship. Seeing them take that next step in those things, I think that's part of like rotation.
That's a good example.
Cool. Yeah. Next one is to...
last but not least.
Yeah, it is last but not least.
We think we may have missed that one.
I think we skipped one.
We make mistakes
Second
sometimes.
to last is establish a point person. I think we might have missed one there, but this is something that's obvious. I think with every area of ministry, having a captain for that area, that's something that's so important. I think it's obvious. I think in some areas, our worship teams, they have leaders, sometimes paid, sometimes not, depending on the size of your church. Our youth ministries have leaders, but every ministry, from your ushers and greeters to your hospitality people to everything that happens at your church, there should be a champion for each one of these areas, the person that holds the standard. And so establishing who that is and making sure you have some clear ideas, and you're not, if you're asking people to volunteer for something, you need to have someone that they're reporting to. I think that's just a good way to handle things. So
I like the word champion, point person / champion. Yes, very important. And now, last but not least, is recognize and appreciate your volunteers. Obviously, they're going above and beyond. They're doing this. They're giving you your time that they don't have to, additional time. And so, they're making that sacrifice. Different ways to do that could be through your newsletter, could be, during announcements, could be a video. I know that my church, we do a lot of video production, and it could be that, this person's been serving in this area. You have this behind the scenes video, and nothing too crazy or lengthy, but most certainly recognizing certain key volunteers. Maybe it's during a key time of the year, maybe it's someone who's really active in missions, and you're about to have a mission trip, big one coming up in the new year or something, and that's a good thing to acknowledge those folks. So yeah.
For us, we do a big volunteer appreciation event annually. And we just had it mid-October, so a few weeks ago here. And it was a really fun time. And in the past, we had rented out entire restaurants and like did it actually nice. We let their whole families come with them. This time we actually did it at our facility, but we had a catered like $30 per person, really nice meal that we had.
Not just sloppy joes or hot dogs.
No, it's not like, and we don't charge them to go either. I know some churches do that kind of thing, but so we have this big, nice dinner, and we also like have prizes and just kind of an MC that's running things. And we played, I guess it's a game that youth play called Gimme Gimme, where they say gimme gimme, and then they just say something random like a receipt from CVS, and someone who has that in their purse or something would run up and get a prize of some kind. We did that, and then here's my favorite part: is we did like our own church's version of the Dundies from The Office, the awards for people. And so we have like a servant of the year in each department, where we would highlight that person and what they did and why we chose them for that. Have some caution on that. I think some people felt unappreciated because they didn't get the award, which is really not the point of the whole thing, and it kind of missed it. But I think for the most part, it was really touching because here's what was most touching for me as a pastor at the church was watching some people that don't do it for the award, right? Nobody is serving so they can get the award for servant of the year in this area of ministry, but seeing their faces when they received it and how touched they were. Like one lady within our church was just brought to tears that she was like honored in front of, we had like 120 people at our servant appreciation meal there. So anyway, long story short, there's lots of ways that you can do this, but I would strongly encourage, it's been a part of our rhythm annually at our church for years. I really think it's one of the best things that we do, and I would strongly encourage you to have a servant appreciation celebration of some kind. Really been a good thing for us. Anything else to add as we wrap up, Ian?
No, volunteers. If we have any volunteers following our podcast and everything, you are appreciated and you deserve to be served as well by your church. And so, we hope this has been encouraging.
Yeah, pastors, they're the backbone of your church. So love them, care for them, manage them well. You are a steward for those. So just like the parable of the talents, you can think of your volunteers in that way. God has entrusted you to steward them well. So hopefully this has been encouraging in helping you do that. If it has been, let us know down in the comments if you have something that you do at your church to better honor or manage or help volunteers be more effective. We'd love to hear about that as well. Hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.